Africa, buckle up, because something big just happened in the land of upright people, Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré, the fearless captain-turned-president, just dropped a continental bombshell, a letter to all 54 African heads of state, calling for total unity, independence, and the end of foreign dependency. But instead of thunderous applause, what did he get? A wave of polite silence, diplomatic dodges, and some not-so-polite rejections. Suddenly, unity sounded dangerous. So tonight on Global Pulse Newz, we're slicing through the smoke to reveal the 10 real reasons why some African presidents refused to unite with Ibrahim Traoré. From fear of losing power to foreign puppetry, from ego wars to quiet revolutions, this story has everything. So pour yourself a strong Burkinabe tea, sit tight, and prepare for truths hotter than Ouagadougou in April. Let's count them down, from number 1 to number 10, the deeper motives behind Africa's divided response. At the heart of this political storm lies a single voice that refuses to stay quiet. Ibrahim Traoré's. His call wasn't a memo, it was a wake-up siren. Africa must act for itself, he said, and it struck deep. His words carried more voltage than a campaign rally. We may not all agree today, but history will remember those who stood for Africa. This message challenged not just colonial legacies, but comfortable leadership habits. He wasn't offering diplomacy, he was demanding self-respect. For many leaders, that's the problem. It's easy to praise unity at summits, harder to live it in practice. Traoré's vision threatens those built on dependency and delay. In essence, he wasn't rejected because he was wrong. He was rejected because he was right too soon. Transition hook. But behind every idea that shakes thrones, there are forces that panic, and nowhere is that clearer than on the global stage. Make no mistake, when Africa whispers about unity, the world's power brokers turn up the volume. Western and Eastern powers alike have a stake in a divided Africa. It keeps resources flowing cheaply and politics easy to manipulate. If Traoré's vision ever took root, imagine the fallout. An Africa that negotiates as one, controls its own lithium, cobalt, oil, and gold, and dictates trade terms. An Africa that says no to unfair deals, no to foreign bases, no to IMF dependency. Across Africa, especially in Ouagadougou, Accra, Lagos, and Nairobi, young people have caught Traoré's fire. They're tired of empty speeches and development projects that never reach the people. When news broke that leaders were rejecting the unity call, African youth didn't just scroll past, they flooded social media with rage. Hashtags like Unite for Africa trended, demanding transparency. Radio hosts, student unions, and street conversations all echoed the same question. Why is unity a threat? That's a question some presidents don't want to answer because it exposes how little they've done to build genuine sovereignty. The irony, by refusing Traoré, they've made him more popular than ever. He's become the symbol of the Africa young people wish they had. Transition hook. But behind every idea that shakes thrones, there are forces that panic, and nowhere is that clearer than on the global stage. Make no mistake, when Africa whispers about unity, the world's power brokers turn up the volume. Western and Eastern powers alike have a stake in a divided Africa. It keeps resources flowing cheaply and politics easy to manipulate. If Traoré's vision ever took root, imagine the fallout. An Africa that negotiates as one, controls its own lithium, cobalt, oil, and gold, and dictates trade terms. An Africa that says no to unfair deals, no to foreign bases, no to IMF dependency.
South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, always the diplomat's diplomat, reportedly accused Traoré of being too close to firebrand Julius Malema, a man who makes headlines the way storms make thunder. Ramaphosa's hesitation wasn't just ideological, it was strategic. South Africa sees itself as Africa's moderator, not its revolutionary. Aligning with Traoré could look like joining a rebellion instead of leading consensus. So he played it safe, sending coded skepticism disguised as neutrality. Behind the curtains, though, Pretoria's business elites and Western allies likely whispered, "Stay clear of this." And when economics whisper, politics obey. His refusal, polite as it was, still carried weight, because when Africa's powerhouse blinks, others hesitate. Transition hook. Yet for every cautious veteran, a new generation of lions is stepping into the arena, teeth sharp, spirits blazing. Say what you will about coups, but the new crop of transitional leaders, Assimi Goïta, Abdourahmane Tiani, and Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal speak the language of defiance fluently. To them, Traoré isn't a rebel, he's a comrade. They've faced sanctions, suspensions, and the icy stare of Western diplomats, yet they stand firm. When Traoré called for unity, they didn't hesitate, they echoed. Their alliance isn't formal, but it's emotional. They shared the belief that Africa can't beg for freedom, it must seize it. They see themselves as architects of renewal, not caretakers of decline. And whether the world calls them radicals or reformers, they've made one truth unavoidable. The old Africa is cracking and something new is breaking through. Transition hook. But beyond the revolutionaries, there's a quieter class of reformers. Leaders who support unity, but in their own cautious, calculated way. Enter Paul Kagame of Rwanda, João Lorenzo of Angola, and Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal. Leaders who didn't mock Traoré's message, but gave it structure. They see unity not as a military dream, but an economic blueprint. Kagame is building African digital infrastructure. Lorenzo champions industrial independence, and Masisi wants shared defense frameworks. Their message, unity isn't chaos, it's cooperation. These leaders walk a tightrope. They're reformers, not rebels, choosing transformation without upheaval. They don't want to overthrow systems, they want to modernize them. In their eyes, Traoré's passion needs policy, and unity requires paperwork as much as revolution. Still, for some leaders, the very thought of collaboration is enough to trigger anxiety, because unity means sharing control, and that's where the resistance hardens. Power isn't just addictive, it's territorial. For leaders like Yoweri Museveni in Uganda or Emerson Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe, unity feels like dilution. Imagine sharing decision-making with dozens of other presidents. Imagine audits, transparency, and rotation. To rulers who've held office for decades, that sounds less like progress and more like a mutiny. They've built nations around their personality, not institutions. Unity challenges that order by forcing collaboration and compromise. And compromise is the one currency these veterans never learned to trade. For them, rejecting Traoré is simple mathematics. Shared power equals reduced control. Transition hook. But fear isn't always about control. Sometimes it's about survival, especially when the hand that feeds you isn't African.
Here's the paradox. Many leaders reject Traoré's movement in the name of democracy. Kenya's William Ruto and Nigeria's Bola Tinubu both insisted they wouldn't back leaders who came to power through non-democratic means. On paper, it's a moral stance. In reality, it's a performance, a carefully tailored message for Western media and donors. They know their legitimacy abroad hinges on maintaining that good governance image. By rejecting Traoré, they keep the applause from Washington and Brussels, even if the crowd at home is booing. It's democracy as branding, not belief. And in that branding war, one thing trumps image: cold, hard cash. Follow the money trail and you'll understand the silence. Many African governments are financially handcuffed to foreign aid, loans, and military funding. Take Ivory Coast under Ouattara or the DRC under Tshisekedi. Their national budgets rely on Western partnerships that come with invisible strings. Traoré's brand of independence threatens that balance. If they join his unity movement, they risk losing aid, investment, and the diplomatic safety net that keeps their economies afloat. So they smile, nod, and politely decline. Not out of principle, but out of pragmatism. Unity is a beautiful idea until it threatens your next IMF payment. And that brings us to the most human motive of all. Not money, not ideology, but comfort. For some presidents, the chair of power isn't a seat, it's a throne. Leaders like Paul Biya of Cameroon and Teodoro Obiang Nguema of Equatorial Guinea have ruled so long that change itself feels foreign. To them, unity sounds like retirement. Shared governance means oversight, term limits, and maybe even accountability. Words that rarely echo in their palaces. Their nations run on loyalty, not legislation, and the fewer voices they must heed, the better. Traore's appeal for cooperation threatens to pull them out of their comfort zones, a risk they'll never take willingly. So they reject not just Traore's call, but the future itself, because unity demands what comfort fears most: change. 10 reasons, 10 truths. From ego to economics, from fear to foreign strings. Every refusal reveals more about our continent's wounds than Traore's vision itself. But the movement has begun. Whether they unite today or 10 years from now, the call cannot be unsaid. Africa is shifting, and young voices are pushing it forward. So now it's your turn. Should African presidents unite behind Traore's vision, or are we still trapped in old games with new flags? Tell us in the comments. Hit subscribe, tap that notification bell, and share this video if you believe Africa's story belongs to Africans, not outsiders. This is Global Pulse News, where truth doesn't whisper. Until next time, game over.